How's it going, my band of musical warriors? This is Michael Mashmeyer coming to you from the great Kiss Man Cave that is my collection. And as you can tell, I'm kind of a Kiss superfan. But what we're going to do with these videos is we're going to kind of do what I'm calling the different hats that I wear as a business person, as a teacher, as a Marine, as a father, different things like that. And we'll have different hat subjects that we're going to be talking about. And this one is going to be called the GunnyCover. Kind of stories from the road, if you will. Things that happened to me while I was a Marine. And the thing about it is you know, after performing and deploying to 27 different countries around the world, I've got to see a lot. I've gotten to do a lot. And I just kind of want to tell some stories and honor some of the great Marines that I worked with as a musician, great Marines that I worked with over as a combat operator in Fallujah. But I just think sometimes stories from the road can be a pretty neat thing. And what I'm hoping to do is, as we connect to audience, you guys can ask questions and different things like that. Maybe you might want to learn a little bit more about a story that I told that I didn't get to, or different things like that. And it's really just going to be an effort to become more interactive with the people that might be frequenting my business, and maybe investing in the services that I offer, or buying a composition that I've written. But with the gunny hat, I want to tell stories. And I think I'm going to start with a fantastic story that involves my collection and some of my heroes, which is the members of the band Kiss, and the fact that I got a chance to actually perform on stage with Simmons and Tommy Thayer, and believe it or not, I got to be a member of the Family Jewels television show that Gene did. And that is actually a thing that I'm very proud of. So I have a couple things to show you from the time. We'll probably throw some pictures in there, and you know, eventually down the road, I might even be able to convince some of my Marines to come in via Zoom, or, you know, maybe even be here, that can help me tell some of the stories. So the GunnyCover is going to start with a great story. And you know what? I tell you what, I'm going to take this cover off because, you know, we are indoors. I tell you what, this table, the way we have this, kind of reminds me of a newscaster station. And I kind of feel like a newscaster, and there's something that I've always wanted to do, and that's cut to another camera. Traffic today was really not that much. You want to know why? Because we didn't go anywhere. Hey. In sports, nothing much is going on because, you know, we're in a pandemic. So let's go back forward. In music news, no, we're not going to do music. I tell you what, let's go ahead and just go on with our story. So anyway, the greatest thing happened. Gene's daughter, Sophie, decided that she wanted to learn a little bit about the Marine Corps. And so Gene came up with this idea of going to mock boot camp. Well, lucky for me, I was stationed at Camp Pendleton at the 1st Marine Division Band. I was also, at the time, what is known as an enlisted conductor. Well, actually, I was the assistant enlisted conductor, and the enlisted conductor, who was a good friend of mine, thought that maybe I should be involved because he knew that this was my favorite band. So anyway, long story short, we got to perform with Gene. Gene actually wanted to use the entire Marine band from 1st Marine Division, but because of the size of the stage that we had on the base, we only got to use about 10 of us. So there was actually 5 trumpeters, and there were 5 drummers. And I ended up beating on the bass drum, even though, you know, I was a euphonium player and an assistant conductor. My boss thought it would be a good idea to beat on that bass drum. And so that was what I got to do in order to get a whole bunch of signatures from, like these. Now, if you notice right here, there's Gene's signature right in the center, and then I'm going to flip it over like this, and there's Tommy's signature right there. And you'll notice that I got 4 other band members on there. That's just from various times that I went to expos and different things like this. But this particular cover was in the video. So anyway, we got to perform with Gene and Tommy and 2 other guys. And what was really kind of interesting was Gene and Tommy showed up, but their camera crew did not. Their camera crew got lost on the bass, and so we actually got to kind of BS with Gene and Tommy for about 3 hours. And so what I'm going to tell you about is probably, I broke this story out at different KISS conventions and things like that, but I have never really told it in quite such a large form. But you know, there's a lot of professional musicians out there, a lot of rock stars, a lot of country stars that find it in vogue to be supportive of the Marine Corps or the Army or the Navy or any of the other armed forces. But Gene kind of proved that he really was a supporter. And the other thing that I discovered while we were on location was that Tommy Thayer is actually the son of an Army Brigadier General. So he is an Army brat. And so, of course, he appreciates the military, and that was really kind of cool. And for those of you who are not KISS aficionados, Tommy Thayer is the second musician in the band to wear the spaceman outfit. He replaced Ace Frehley just after the 5 years of the reunion tour. So it was interesting because this was actually in let me see, this was in April of 2007. Which I had actually just gotten back. Me and 27 other Marines had just gotten back from Fallujah, Iraq. And the story that I'm going to tell you involves one of my Marines. I'm actually not going to use his name right now because, you know, I don't know if it's okay to talk about him or not. But this particular drummer he was one of the first of the 4 of us that earned the Purple Heart doing what we did over in Fallujah. He actually took an IED from above him while they went underneath a bridge, and so he had some damage to his face and to his left arm. But anyway, he was wearing the Purple Heart at the time, and so this particular Marine is also kind of he's a typical drummer. He's a jokester and, you know, the life of the party, the class clown. And so we're literally waiting for the film crew. And this Marine goes, "So, Mr. Simmons, do you want to give to my, well, he said his name. Do you want to give to the Mike Mashmeyer Drum Fund?" I'm using my name in there. And Gene's like, "Well, who's that?" And this Marine goes, "Well, it's me." You see, I took all the money from my combat tour, and he actually had stayed over there for a full year. He said, "I took all the money from my combat tour, and I have enough to either buy a drum set or I have enough to buy cymbals." And the whole time that he was describing this story, Gene was looking at his crony. That was his little assistant that was with him, and he was doing this, you know. So about 2 minutes later, this crony hands Gene the phone, and he's like, "Yes, how you doing? Yeah, this is Gene. Yeah, Gene Simmons. Listen, I don't care whether or not I pay for it, you pay for it, whatever. Yeah, we're going to donate a drum set to this combat operator, Marine musician. So yes. So anyway, he was talking to the president of DW Drums, the president DW drums. So anyway, I'm going to truncate it a little bit. So essentially, the crony ends up handing the phone to this Marine, who is telling the president of the DW drums his address and all the pertinent information for getting this drum set sent to him. And then he gives the phone back to Gene, and then he goes to his car to get his medals rack. We were wearing ribbons that day, but he went and got his medals rack, and of course the medals rack had the Purple Heart on the end of it, the one closest to your heart. And so then Gene motions for him, and he comes back over, and he's got his medals, and Gene hands him the phone again, and he goes, hey, he needs to know what color you want. And Aaron gives Gene his medals rack. And, you know, I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. I had never, and I never saw again a Marine give away his medals to someone. And Gene was literally dumbfounded. That man is never, ever at a lack of words. And he didn't know what to say. He didn't really know what to do. It was really kind of cool. And because, you know, of course I was standing right next to him, he's one of my heroes, and because I had served with him over in Iraq, Gene says, I can't accept this. And I was like, well, sir, you kind of have to, because you're going to give the man a drum set, and he's got to give you something in return. And Gene's like, well, but this is too much. And then he looked at the medals and he says, can you tell me what this all means? And so I told him, you know, I had been serving with this Marine for many years, so I knew what he had gotten the different medals for. And, you know, having served over in Iraq with him, I knew what he got the Purple Heart for. And I was basically telling him, you know, this is kind of like a visual representation of what this Marine has done in his career. And he got this for this, and he got this one for this. And, well, that's the combat action. And that's the Iraqi war medal, and then that is he had a Navy achievement with a Combat V on it, and I said that's his Combat V for what he did as a gunner on top of the Humvee. And Gene goes, well, and that's the Purple Heart, isn't it? And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, what happened? You guys are musicians, right? And I said, well, sir, you know, every Marine is a rifleman, so it does not matter what you do for the Marine Corps. Eventually, you're probably going to go to a combat zone. And he goes, but this guy's a drummer. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, well, what happened? And, you know, I told him about the story of the IED and the bridge and everything like that. And Gene was just dumbfounded. Now, we had about 2 hours that we were waiting for the camera crew, and Gene never put those medals down. He carried them around. And when it came time to actually film the show, which, by the way, it's called Uncle Gene Wants You. It's in season 2. So if you want to check the performance out, yeah, I'm the blonde bass drummer. A lot more skinny, but anyway, wearing this cover. Anyhow, so came time for doing the show, and Gene reluctantly handed the medals over to his crony, and he's like, don't you set these down. I'm cutting out the F-bombs. He says, don't set this down. He says, don't put it down, nothing. He says, you just hold it while I do everything else. And the thing about it is after having met Gene, that was really cool. But the next year when season 3 came out and they started filming in Gene's personal office, which, you know, looks a lot like this, only way better. And I caught, as the camera panned across the front of Gene's desk, I caught my Marines medals in a case right on the front of Gene's desk. And the thing about it is the story was never published. That was just another day to him, and he didn't try to get any publicity from it. But he respected that my Marine enough to get that man something that he felt he worked for, and never said anything to anybody, but to quietly see those medals on the front of his desk was amazing. That really made me respect Gene Simmons a lot more than just being a hero that plays on a stage and puts some makeup on and is a musician. And this man was doing all of what we had done there in an effort to teach his then 15-year-old daughter the importance of what we as military personnel did for our country. But he did a mock boot camp, and I watched all the filming and got lots of signatures. I've got signatures on probably 10 or 15 things, and he gladly signed everything. And you know what? Let me show you something real quick. Let me take a pause. So one of the things at the rehearsal the night before was they signed my daughter's guitar. And if you see right here, it says, "Keep practicing," to Augusta, and it's signed Tommy Thayer of Kiss, and then Gene signed it right here. And you'll notice, a lot of signatures now are kind of done in that silver ink and everything, and which is all good and fine, but I couldn't afford that stuff when I was in the Marine Corps, and so all I had was just a Sharpie. But this was one of the, I think like 15 different things that I got signed that night. But yeah, it prized possessions. But to be involved with professional performance, with someone of Gene Simmons's fame, and then after a couple hours have his persona be dropped and have him just be known as a well-spoken, doting dad on his daughter. And my oldest daughter, Alexa, was the same age as Sophie. And even at one of the filming locations, her and Sophie sat and spoke about, they were both soccer players at the time, and they talked at length about soccer. And so it was really neat to find out that these people that were so famous, because Sophie was one of the people on Family Jewels, are really just everyday folks like you and I, and it was really cool. So anyway, that's one of my favorite GunnyCover stories from my time in the Marine Corps. And so just remember, if you have any kind of questions or anything about this, I want you to find my Instagram page, which is Warrior Musician LLC, and comment on some of the photos that you might see that is going to accompany this. And maybe next time we can answer the questions that you have. So I think that's about it for this episode of the GunnyCover. And just like to finish up by really giving you a good look at this cover, which is one of my prized possessions and a cover that was worn into performance. And well, just kind of like to sign off by saying peace out. Love you guys.